It's little Blossom just helping herself to a little treat. This is a food I forgot to mention last week because I wasn't able to buy it where I live, but I found out, someone told me where I could buy it online. It's a science selective rat food, which is complete food. Has no added sugar, and rats absolutely love it, and you can feed that on its own or mix it in with nuggets. So my rats have got some of that this week, and they love it so much they're just eating it as a little treat. So that's just another food that I forgot to mention, and then Blossom is going to help me. There's just a few little things to mention, but no, don't have that. No, naughty girl, licking everything. Licking everything, don't lick the shampoos. No, just a few things that I'm going to tell you about because I'm going to have to move, or Blossom won't leave them alone. Final preparations, some things I probably forgot to mention. We always have a few washing up bowls and a plastic jug and lots of kitchen paper. Now the washing up bowls and the jug are useful when you're cleaning out your cage, and also if we do have to bath our rats, which we don't do very often, we would have several bowls of water inside the bath and have the water all prepared ready, and I'll talk about that more when I do a little video on bathing rats and why we don't do it too often. But washing up bowls, very useful. Some flannels or face cloths, get a few of those, and some old towels or some cheap towels from the supermarket, and they're very good for cleaning, a daily cleaning, weekly cleaning, or the big monthly clean of your house. We do keep a pack of the anti-bacterial type cage wipes. We don't use sprays at all on the cage. And the wipes we will only use if the cage is very dirty, or we've had a rat that's got an infection. And we'd never use that if the rats were in the cage, because we don't want them licking the shelves that've got any sort of cleaners or anything on. Excuse me. So we would just use the wipes and then wash with hot water and then dry if we were using those. But I say only on the empty cage, never if the rats are in there. I'm going to have some cheeky girls following me around now. For cleaning the cages, or if we do have to shampoo the rats, we would have a rat shampoo, but not one with pine. One that says it's suitable for small animals, and this one is easy rinse, so that's very good. Sorry, I can't remember my words tonight. I am tired. It's been a very long day and a busy week with sick rats. I have 3 on antibiotics, different antibiotics this week, so it's been a bit hectic. And another thing really for yourself that I forgot to mention, if you get some plain soap that is not antibacterial soap, just a mild unscented one if you can get it, and what that's useful for is washing your hands before you handle your rats or before you prepare food and everything. We don't like to use the antibacterial one because obviously human cleaners and human disinfectants and things aren't safe for rats. And the other little thing that you might want to get yourself is a camera. Obviously baby rats grow very rapidly. There's a squabble going on in there. That's quite normal when you've got several rats in a cage. That's just them, they've seen one of the old girls. And the other thing that we like to have is a notebook. Now this is because we have lots of rats, and obviously we've got rats coming and going, and we don't rehome, they stay with us, but rats are, you know, old rats don't live very long, so we like to keep a record of all our rats. This is an empty book that I haven't used yet. It's got dividers, but it's very useful because it's got pockets in the front, so you can put photos or notes or vet bills in the front. You could have a section for each rat, or you could have all your rats listed, the date you got them. You could have another section for keeping weight records. You could have another section for medicines and things if they're sick. It's up to you, but if you've only got a couple of rats, just get a tiny book and just keep a record, because it's nice to look back on, especially when you have baby rats. And you do need to weigh your rats sometimes for medicines and things. Although the vet will do it for you, it's nice to know and see how rapidly your little baby rats grow. So anyway, today's subject, apart from the little extra things, is really about how many rats should you get. Now, any number apart from 1 is a good number of rats to have. 1 is not to be recommended because rats are really very sociable animals, and they need the company of other rats. So you know, just get them a little friend, so any number apart from 1. 2 is a good number to start with if you're not experienced at handling rats, and you can always add another 2 rats a little bit later on when you've gained a bit of experience and you're confident. So if you go to the pet shop and there's 3 little rats, and don't just take 2 and leave the 3rd one, because the 3 is a nice number as well. They're good company, and I hate to see one little baby rat on its own in a pet shop, because it's probably going to end up being a lone rat for life, or if it's lucky someone will come along and who has other rats and rescue it. But it's not really rescuing from the pet shops, it's just encouraging them to get more baby rats in. So pet shops would be my last option for getting rats. The thing with pet shops is the babies won't have been handled. You probably won't see the parents, so you'll have no idea of the temperament of the parents, whether they are, you know, nice placid rats or if they're very jumpy and skittish. And the other place that I like to get my rats from, there's always the rescue centres. If you want to take on older rats for your first rats, that's perfectly okay, providing the rats can be safely handled. If you go to a rescue centre, they'll allow you to visit and to sort of bond with the animal before you take it away, so that's quite handy. And rescue centres often have, you know, little baby rats as well, quite young rats. So if you could rescue a rat that's just maybe a few months old, and then it's almost the same as having the baby rats. You'll still have them for quite a long time. So you've got the pet shops, rescue centres. My particular favourite would be somebody who just maybe has 1 or 2 litters a year, which is where most of my rats come from. Often it's people who've rescued rats that may be pregnant, so you definitely get to see the mummy rat. You're climbing up me now, trying to get everything. I'm going to have to move everything. You're such a naughty little girl, you can't leave anything alone. Look at you. That's Blossom and Bella. So they're really distracting me today, I'm so sorry. So anyway, if you get from somebody who just has 1 or 2 litters of rats a year, then you've got the benefit of seeing at least 1 parent, possibly both, and also the rats will have been handled much more frequently. So that's always very good to have rats that have been handled. And if you want a particular colour or type of rat, for example, maybe you want a champagne Dumbo rat, then you would need to go to a breeder or a rattery. But be aware that not all breeders are good, and go online, find a local rat group near to you, get some recommendations from people, and just make sure you get rats from somewhere where people know that the mums are looked after and the babies are looked after. And I think that's it from about where you can get your rats, really. There's always the private ads in the paper, but they're generally older rats, so obviously you've got to make sure that they can be handled. Your local RSPCA centres, that sort of thing. So the other thing to think about with rats is whether you want males or females. Now the does, little girls, they're quite lively. And they're my particular favourite because my interest is rat intelligence and rat behaviour, rat agility. So the girls are very lively when they're young. You'll get cuddles, but the cuddles won't last long. But when they're older, they will come and sit on your knee for quite some time. And with the males, or the bucks, they are also lively when they're young, but they are a lot more sort of generally quieter and placid, more cuddly when they're older, so they tend to sit on your knee for longer. So it's just personal preference. And really that's probably about all I can tell you. You've got to think about your numbers, at least 2 rats, maybe 3 or 4 even for your first rat. It's up to you where to buy your rats from. Just do your final preparations, make sure you've got everything you need for your rats. The other thing that's quite useful is a plastic container to keep your rat food in. You can just use any sort of plastic tub. You can use a large tub where you just place the whole packet in to the container, and that just keeps everything dry and clean. Or you can get little containers that are airtight, where you actually empty the contents of the dried food into the airtight plastic container. So it's up to you what type of storage, but I think that's the only other thing that I can think of that's good to have before you get your rats. There they are, standing up to each other. A little bit of play fighting there. That's quite normal as well in a cage with several rats. That's a bit naughty. That's sort of naughty squabbling. Girls, they've seen another rat. That's the problem. You come and leave those babies alone. You're naughty. You make them squabble every night, Bella. But that's it, your final preparations. The next thing, next video is preparing final preparations before you actually go and get your rats. Just making sure everything's set up properly. Have a look around for a vet as well, for a good vet, so you're ready to register your rats as soon as you get them. And we'll talk about bringing your rats home, settling them in, and first playtime.